You have the same soul mission across different lifetimes and across different dimensions. You are enriching your soul and different aspects of yourself that are somehow related, which you have been experiencing throughout all those lifetimes is not random. You know, people sometimes say, like, in all our lifetimes we had all the experiences, and it is true to some extent, but there is a deeper design and meaning to those experiences. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sylvia Salow, and I help light workers and starseeds to remember who they are. And today I want to talk about a topic that's deepest and closest to my heart, but it's the most difficult one to explain and describe, because it's something that needs to be experienced. It's difficult to transmit this experience just through using the words, but I will try and do my best today. This is basically the heart of the Mystery School that I teach and I created. I take people through the remembering process, which means that they start to access their memories from different lifetimes. And not only from the earth, but also from other dimensions. Because I want you to imagine that when you were one with the source, you then created your I am presence. And then you created your higher self. This is where it's the first individuation. And you were really, expressing yourself and descending through different dimensions. You carry some aspect of source that are unique to you. And you can complement other people with your gifts and your unique perspectives because of this fact that you have some unique part of you that comes from source directly. And you are kind of like mastering and beautifying this aspect through all those different dimensions. So it's almost like you would imagine that you are mastering the same kind of set of talents and gifts across different dimensions. And you are basically learning how to be really good at that given thing. And because this maybe doesn't make much sense, I'm going to share an example. And this is an example. We will start in the 6th dimension. For simplicity, we could start higher, but let's just keep it simple. We start at a 6th dimension in the constellation of Sirius. And I will give you a very specific example of how it looks like for that particular soul to have the same mission across different lifetimes. There is a leader, spiritual leader, on a beautiful, peaceful, harmonious planet in the constellation of Sirius. The Sirians are the wisdom keepers, and they want to just share the knowledge truly. They are like the educators and teachers. And imagine this spiritual leader on this beautiful, peaceful planet. Everything exists in harmony. And the spiritual leader there, it's a different kind of leadership than here. So up there, that leadership is more like you see how you can contribute to the whole collective. You are constantly supporting your people. You are serving them. You are having beautiful, equal relationships with them. There's no hierarchy. Although you are a leader, you are not above other people. And everything is beautiful. But then what happens? Imagine that to that planet comes dark energy. So there are beings that are bringing so-called darkness. So for the first time, you start to experience duality. You start to experience light and dark. And you didn't have to think about light and dark before. You don't have any experience. It's the first time. And there are those beings that come there because you are peaceful. You don't have any wars like we would have here. And somehow it happens that they eventually start leading the whole planet. They become the leader in a peaceful way. It's almost like the cycles would be shifting. And so somehow you understand intuitively that you had a very, very, very long and beautiful, peaceful cycle. And now there is this change coming. And it's not anyone's specific fault. But because it's so new, you start to feel guilt that it happened, and you start to feel fear because you are like, can this happen again? What am I supposed to be and do now? And you know that many of your people previously to this happening traveled to the third dimension, to the earth. You know that they are there because you are connected to them. You were always like looking after them, sending them down information, intuitive guidance. And so you're like, okay, so I'm going to go to the earth to be there for my people. And I will wait out this dark cycle, and then I come back to Sirius. And so what happens is that your soul goes into the third dimension. And of course, as you know, there's fifth and fourth in between, and there are different lessons associated to it. The fifth dimension is love. So the question would be, is love the solution to duality? Well, maybe not, because people can shut down their hearts, right? And then fourth dimension, it's more about like illusions and fears. But then we get to here. And what happens? You are still in leadership positions because this is part of your soul's mission that doesn't change in those different lifetimes and dimensions. So you are still in leadership positions. You become a spiritual leader in Atlantis. And guess what happens there? The same dark beings, they also infiltrate Atlantis in the 3D. They eventually take over and things fall. And you have the same kind of experience like you had it in 6D, but it's different this time. Because in 6D, time doesn't operate the same way. So this cycle feels like it's not going to change ever. You know, it feels for us, imagine that one long cycle or a year would take like millions of human years. That those changes are very small, very subtle. And because time is changing quickly here, and there are many changes happening, it helps you to understand how to actually work with duality, how to actually work with the dark side by understanding it and understanding how to transmute dark into the light, which is maybe something that you wouldn't do it up there in that sixth dimension. But here you can transmute things very quickly. And so although the same thing happens, you already have more insight and lessons than you could have had up there. And then let's say you become a pharaoh in Egypt. You already know how to transmute things. You are a very powerful soul. But then some other things happen that seem to be outside of your control, and again the cycle shifts. And you are again faced in the same situation. But this time it was different, because as that pharaoh, imagine that there was division in your people. Some people trusted you and your path because you were teaching them how to stay in alignment with the higher self, and you were teaching them that there are no these like gods that people were worshipping. There's only one God. And imagine that some people will get it, and you will teach them, you will help them to ascend. And some people will project all kinds of fears on you because you are bringing in something new. And so what happens eventually is that they take you out of power and they kill you. Maybe they even curse you because they're afraid of you. They are afraid that you may come back in a different life and do something ugly to them, although you wouldn't do it as a Syrian soul. They don't know it because they operate in different framework of consciousness. And so again, you have yet another experience of leadership. And then you maybe become some king or even a pope and so on. And each time you look at the same thing, which is leadership, from a different angle. Each time you understand it differently. Each time you know how to work with the duality better and better and better. And maybe in this life you are leading people behind the scenes. You are supporting other leaders to rise. Because that's another aspect of leadership that you haven't tried yet, because you were always like in the forefront. And now it's time to be a little bit behind the scenes and support the collective. And you have to learn how to deal with projections, envy, people worshipping you, which is a nasty thing also. It's just the same, like when they hate you. Worshipping and hate is the same thing. And they crucify you. They misunderstand you, they misuse your teachings. You have to deal with all that spectrum. But as you notice in this example, it's still the same soul mission. It just has different flavors. It has just different details that you focus on in different lifetimes. And I want to say one more thing since we have this example. It made sense, intuitively or logically should we say, to come here. Because as that cycle changed in Sirius, you wanted to contribute your gifts and your teachings to the earth. It just made a logical sense. It's like you would change a school. You know, you're in the elementary school, then you go to high school. You know, it just makes sense. There's no like hard feelings about it. But here you can learn things work differently because there's such a big variety of consciousness that we can truly learn how to deal with all aspects of consciousness in a miniature scale. You can learn how to transmute and work with the various energies and how to integrate them. And it all helps you in your soul's mission. And you're at the same time sending information to your multi-dimensional self, to higher aspects of you. And they can be expanding and they become richer because of your experience here. Because as a Syrian being, you just are projecting yourself to this dimension. So this is an example of how we have the same soul mission across various lifetimes. And so when you are thinking about your own being and you want to remember who you are, this is kind of that uniqueness that you carry since you separated from Source. But of course, when you were in much higher dimensions, it was just very subtle difference, very subtle separation. But as we come lower and lower, it's more visible and it's easier to grasp it and to also get lost in it. It comes with it, of course, but what is it that is unique to you? Let me know in the comments below. I would be really curious to hear, what do you think is your soul mission? What is that something that you've been mastering across different lifetimes? And if you like this video, please give it a like and share it with people who may find it useful, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you next time.